today for this presentation. I hope you will find it as interesting as I have been finding them, studying them. A great pleasure in making some new discoveries, understanding why certain things was done the way they were done. It was a very fascinating journey for me, and I would like to share some of my findings with you, and I hope you find them interesting too. Now, the coinage of Tarsus has been very well studied. Many people try to go into this topic and dissected all the issues about the coinage of this important city in the eastern part of the Mediterranean. Yet we have many fundamental questions that remain unanswered. Like simple questions: when did they first issue coinage? We really don't know. There are many speculations about that. Why did they start minting coins? A lot of theories, a lot of suggestions, and no one wants to believe in what anyone else said about it. That's another issue. So researching these coins, I found a lot of studies done by so many distinguished numismatists, scholars, university professors. Yet there's another study that either contradicts or completely disregards what the previous scholars have written about this. So we have a very complex topic to deal with, to say the least. However, I feel that I'm the luckiest among these people, because it's my labor of love, and I brought together this material one by one, so it is my work. Yet I feel privileged and lucky because I have a substantial amount of material to look at and elaborate, and of course use the earlier scholarship about these coins to come to my own conclusions. So this is what I'm going to talk about today. Many people find it easy to believe that there is this hoard, and yet there are some people who don't want to believe that there is a hoard based on commercial listings. But in my view, it is 100% that this hoard exists, because you have at least 9 cities represented in this hoard, and all the coins that I just show you here appeared consecutively, sometimes 2 by 2, 3 by 3, sometimes in large lots of 5 to 12. So in my mind, there's no doubt that this hoard exists, and as I said, there are 9 mints represented. At least 3 mints we cannot really identify, attribute, And then we have a number of mints from Cyprus that I haven't touched, I haven't studied yet. I contacted a distinguished numismatist from Cyprus, and she kindly agreed to work on the Cyprus material. So I left all the Cyprus coins with her, and I'm hoping that she will complete her studies soon, so that we can continue working on this hoard. So the first group that I wanted to work on is the Tarsus group. I wanted to take an east to west approach, but I felt that the Tarsus group would be the easiest to work on, and what a mistake it was. The Tarsus group proved to be very, very complicated, and here are the reasons why I feel that way. So this is the map of the Eastern Mediterranean, from all the way Aegina in Greece, going to the east, following the Mediterranean coast. 9 cities, at least 9 cities, adopted the same denomination of coins. They were under the dominion of the Persian Empire at certain points, and then the Delian League, led by the city of Athens at that time. Yet they all use the same denomination of coins. That is the first interesting issue that we have to emphasize here. So this is Old Tarsus, a photograph from 1909. It was a small town at that time. And if only archaeological excavations could have been conducted at that time, we would have learned a lot, but that was not possible. Tarsus is right now like this. And the area that you see here is actually the Neolithic settlement, protected in the last 100 years. It was discovered early in the 1900s, and excavations started early on. And then they made sure that that area is protected. But unfortunately, that area doesn't give us much information about the time period that we study here. So in 1993, they discovered this Roman period road by chance. It was they were digging the groundworks for a building, and they discovered this. And unfortunately, they were unable to further these excavations because it's in the middle of the city, and there are government buildings. I think they purchased some of the land, but they couldn't further the excavations beyond what we see right now. So this is where Tarsus is, and the biggest challenge that there is no opportunity to excavate. So where do we get the material that we study? Mostly from illegal or chance finds. And this is the hoard that we know nothing about, how it was discovered, and where it was discovered. We don't even have a location for them. But all I know is that we have that belong to the city of Tarsus, were in the hoard together with all the other coins. And having this kind of material in front of you is a huge advantage to study the operations of a mint, to say the least. And many of these coins, when they are listed for sale online, you just look at them and say, oh, there is a horseman on the obverse and an archer on the reverse. It's the same type. Oh, they're selling another rider and archer type coin. So one by one, they don't really mean anything. But when you put them together, when you categorize them by type, you discover a lot of things. And some of the discoveries that I made are extremely exciting, and I'll slowly go them. I'll try to take this down. Yeah, okay. So overall, I determined 25 different types, obverses and reverses. Among the 25 different types, I have some obverses that I would like to share with you. So obverse type 1, these two are the same actually, from the same type, but they're not from the same dies. What we have here is a horseman riding a horse. Horse is very well ornamented with a headdress on the head, a good harness. There is a ball case on the front side of the horse. The rider wears a felt headdress. You see typically on the so-called satrapal coinage, and the rider reins of the horse in the left hand, and a flower in the right hand. In the back, we have a standing eagle, and then the horse is the ankh or key symbol. What do they mean? We will talk about that. So this is type 1. And then, let me see if we can get, oops, come on. 2. Very similar to the type 1, but obviously different, especially the just poor workmanship, or the die engraver tried to do something else, but the head of the horse is smaller than the others, and the ankh symbol is closer to the body. It's a different obverse. Then we have type 3 and type 4. They are similar in many ways. The horseman wears a clock, long clock with a pointing tip, and yet the other aspects of the coin are very similar. The headdress is a dome-like headdress in this case. It's not like a felt headdress that we see here. And so the eagle is about to fly, or flying in the backfield. And one other difference here is that on the other side of the horse, it's not on the front side, but on the other side of the horse. Now, on type 3, it's almost clear that you don't see anything beneath. Here on type 4, you see the sun disk or winged sun disk symbol, Ahura Mazda's symbol, beneath the horse. We have type 5, type 6, and type 7. They are all showing us the horseman with a different cloak design. Horse is the same horse. It's a ceremonial horse. It's obvious that it's not a horse that is going on a war. It is. It's a parade, most likely, and the horse is very well ornamented for the occasion. And the horsemen, always in all these examples, the horseman does the same thing, holds the reins of the horse and a flower in his right hand. The bow case is sometimes on the front and sometimes on the back. And a different headdress, maybe. This time, it's like the felt headdress that we saw here. But on this example, on these two examples, you see the headdress has a piece that covers the mouth and the chin of the person who wears it. Yet, on this example, the headdress, the piece that would cover the face is falling down on the shoulder. And we see that this is a person. So this is obviously a different rendition of the horseman's act. And interestingly, that we don't see anywhere else, under the horse, we see of an eagle. And obviously, we don't have an eagle in the field. Maybe we don't have an eagle on this example either, and maybe we do have eagles on these two examples. So sometimes they have the eagle, sometimes they don't have it. So let's go to type 9. A rather bad craftsmanship on this one, yet it doesn't fail to show us that it's another Obverse die. And here we have type 10 and sorry, this is supposed to be type 11 actually. I just had a typo there. So two more types, obviously made by the same die engraver. In terms of art, they are very, very similar, yet they are different. And then type 12, this would be, and again, another different obverse. And here, actually, I was perplexed to decipher what was going on here. You see the arm of the rider, and you feel that the engraver didn't carve the hand. Yet you see two hands coming from the chest. So the actually engraver didn't do a bad job. Even though it's not as masterfully done as the type 1, yet the engraver did his best. This person wears the clock, but this clock has an, it's like a mantle actually, not a clock, but it's a mantle. The person, the rider, simply wears it on his shoulders instead of wearing the arms. So those who are familiar with the Turkish culture can attest to the fact that in Turkey, in southern Turkey, especially where I come from, it is very common for men, especially older men, to wear their jacket over their shoulders without wearing the arms. So this is exactly what is doing. And here you can see more clearly, the arm piece is empty. The arm, the hand, either holding this flower. Well, it's no secret the flower is a lotus flower. And in all the examples, somehow the die engravers, obviously there were more than one die engraver. They didn't fail to present the same scene with certain differences. So that's type 12, let's say, and then type 13, yet another different rendition of the felt headdress here. Again, the face is blocked, and the rider is again wearing the mantle over his shoulder. It's not a clock. Here it's a clock. It's obvious that these are clocks on these examples. But starting from this one, it's a mantle. And finally, I have type 14 in this case. It's the horseman is riding to the right instead of to the left. Yet the mantle is there, and again, he's not wearing the mantle. So what does this tell us? I bet there are several variations of even just one type. So technically, we know that obverse dies last longer than reverse dies. They are set in an anvil. So during striking, the first blow impacts the reverse die held in the hand of the mint worker. So the reverse dies wear off or break much faster than the obverse dies. That's why technically for each obverse die, there are multiple reverse dies. There's no rule here to say for each obverse die, they had 4 reverse dies. Whoever makes such assertions, they're making up things. And we're going to see later that dies can deteriorate, they can break, they can be used as for many reasons anytime. So there is no rule to say that a die will last to strike 2,000 coins, 5,000 coins. I sometimes read some scholars make those types of establishments. I simply feel that they make themselves funny. They shouldn't make those types of establishments. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is for each die, you have multiple reverses and you have so many obverses. That means you have multiple reverses for these dies. So this tells us the scale of coin production. Unlike previously thought, understood, the production level was enormous. It was not big, it was not large, it was enormous. What we see right now is actually literally a very, very small fragment of what was produced 2,500 years ago. This hoard simply affirms that the coin production was much more serious business than previously thought. And I'm going to come to the topic of payment of armies, which this hoard simply completely discredits. These coins were issued to facilitate trade mostly, and that included payments of armies, soldiers, and governmental expenses. But the main idea here is that we have a commercial world, and we are supplying for the commercial world. Now, these are the obverses. Again, the dies, the obverse dies are not limited to the 14 types that I have shown you here. There are more, but I just wanted to show you how diverse the production was. The images that we see on the obverse were taken from the Apadana Palace in Persepolis and Susa, built during the time of Darius the Great. That's 522-486. That's his reign. And it is believed that the construction started early on his reign, and it continued until the time of Artaxerxes I. So the construction continued until 460, 450 maybe. And then during the time of Artaxerxes II, there was a big renovation work, but that was believed to be at Susa Apadana. Apadana is not the name of the palace. Actually, it's apparently it means the receiving hall, the open hall where the king, the emperor, would receive his subjects. And all the reliefs that adorn the western and the eastern and the northern and the southern part of the palace show us the glorious achievements of the great king, and how his subjects bring him tribute, gifts, and how his soldiers protect his realm, and how gods protect his empire. And the coin depictions simply show the exact same art form. The dresses are the same, headdresses, headgears are the same, weaponry are the same. There is no doubt that the die engravers working on the Tarsus coinage, the series that I'm going to show you here, I have started to show you here, took their images from the Apadana Palace in Persepolis and Susa and other parts of the Persian Empire. Yeah, and other than the coins that I'll show you here, we see a lot of types, Tarsus types, taken from the same images that we see here. So to show you what was going on there, the flower, the horseman is holding in his hand, that we see here. And the ball case that we see here is exactly the one that we see on that relief. The headdress, the felt headdress, maybe it is not true to say felt headdress, but I know in Turkey there are shepherds protecting mantles, made of felt, and I believe this one is woven fabric or felt. It's more likely a felt headdress because they're giving signs. It's very solid. And when it comes to a woven fabric, we can see the trousers of the rider. It's always he's wearing some kind of trousers that were woven. However, the headdress is solid, so it is most likely made of felt. And the horse, as you see, it was quite common to dress up the horses at that time. And one other item that I would like to show you is the braiding of the tail, horse's tail, and as you see here, the horse's tail is very similar to that of we see in Apadana, in Persepolis. So whoever engraved these coin dies was either given these images, copies of these images, or this person was very familiar with the reliefs of the Persian capital, and he wanted to represent all the aspects of the Persian Empire's glory on the obverse. And finally, the eagle. Eagle is the only item that I could not find in the iconography of the Apadana Palace. So it is most likely a local edition. It should have a certain significance, but we will talk about it. So the headdress, other than the felt headgear, you have this dome-like headdress. We don't know exactly what material they used to make this. Maybe it was also a felt headdress, but it is dome-like and it is different from the rest. And you don't have a piece that is coming down to his neck or to his face. So it's a typical dome-like headgear that we see on Apadana reliefs, and the same thing is represented on this example. And when it comes to the reverses, we have predominantly archers, 170 plus examples, the same types I said, and the guise of the archer is exactly the same as see on the sigloi and direct coins of the Persian Empire. The only difference is it is rendered. And the head is rendered exactly the same way as we see on the Darius the Great's relief on the Behistun monument. It's a multilingual inscription with the great king and his subjects and some slaves and captives are depicted on this monument. So the head of the archer is almost exactly the same as that of Darius the Great on the Behistun mountain. So it is different from the earlier sigloi archer type, and these archers sometimes said to be running, kneeling. They're not running; they are kneeling. You cannot kneel and run and pull an arrow from your ball, you kneel and shoot. And this is exactly what the archer is doing here. So now, as you see, we have so many different types. Type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, type 5, type 6, type 7, and type 8 here. But there are more types. I'm just showing you a handful of them just to make you understand the scale of the production. So if we have 12, 13, 15 obverses, you can imagine how many reverses they might have carved. The earliest examples, I believe, the earliest examples come with a legend. On this one, we see something like this. And on type 2, it's written here. And as you see, the rendition of the letter in the middle is different. There's some kind of a typo, most likely. And this is something that we see quite often on Roman provincial coinage. Consensus among numismatists is that the die engravers during the Roman provincial period or Roman imperial period were either illiterate in the Greek language or they didn't know how to read and write at all. So the same seems to be true in this case. We are going to see the difference between the rendition of those two, of those one letter. It means Tarsus, T-R-Z, Tars. And it is well established that it is it represents the city Tarsus in abbreviated form, but the rendition of the legend varies, and it is most likely because the die engraver was local and he didn't really know how to write, and the quality control was not really strong. So the first two examples come with legends, and others don't. And this also tells us something about the scale of the production. At the beginning, they felt that it was necessary to indicate the name of the mint, the authority, the city, and later on, as they continued producing coins, they felt that it was unnecessary. It was just a waste of time. As you see, the legend disappears, yet other things change. So here the Ankh symbol is outwards, it's large, and here it is smaller. And on this one, it's downwards, and you have the eagle. Remember the eagle had on the obverse? So this is the reverse of that type. So on the obverse and reverse, they used the head of an eagle as a symbol. In this example, we have a tree. On this example, we still have a tree, but the whole scene is different. And on this example, we have the Ankh symbol tilted upward, tilted to the left. You can imagine the number of dies, reverse dies that they created for this enormous production. Now, the last thing I would like to show you to affirm the fact that these coins were designed after the Persepolis reliefs is the way the quiver is ornamented. See, there is a floral ornamentation here and the same ornamentation. You see 3 pieces. Even the die engraver was so loyal to the source image floral ornamentations, each with 3 leaves, and the same thing was depicted on the coin. It's an incredible artistic rendition of the well-known Persian symbols. I was talking about dye production and that problems could occur anytime, and we see that on these examples. This is a rather fresh dye, or this is a coin minted from a fresh dye. As you see, the surface is quite smooth, even though you see small dents here, and on this example, you see you have more dents. So most likely, I'll show you another example to support this example. This is a very, very fresh dye, yet it deteriorated very quickly, obviously, and this is what we ended up having. As the surface of the dye started to wear off, dents occurred. To stop dents growing, they used the chisel, most likely, to make it even, and we ended up having this kind of garbled surface. And in terms of quality control, they didn't have any problem with that. They needed to continue to mint coins. Of course, those who favor the military payment theory will jump on the conclusion that, oh, of course, yeah, they had to mint these coins like this because they had to pay the soldiers, which I don't agree with. The quality control was not a big problem. And as you see, these coins were circulated. They were used for quite a long time. And the minting was important. The mint had an order of, say, to mint a certain amount of coins, and no matter what, they had to deliver. And they didn't have access to die engravers immediately, and they continued minting coins even though the Obverse die deteriorated badly. And this is another example with a lot of chisel marks. As you see, the die wore off quite badly, but they continued minting. So it was, it comes down to the fact that the coins had to have a certain image to identify the mint, but the quality was not their priority because the intrinsic value of silver had the buying power, not the image. The image, of course, guaranteed the content and the weight of the coin. That's what we call a coin. There is a sign on each side that guarantees, as an authority, as the symbol of the authority, the content, that is the pureness of metal, and the weight. So as long as it served their purposes, the intrinsic value purposes, they apparently didn't care much about the quality. Now, among the other types, other reverse types, this one was offered for sale, I believe last year in 2020. And there are only 3 examples offered. When I first saw it, it was the first one. And then they offered another one, and then I missed it, but I found later a 3rd example. So overall, there are 3 examples of this obverse and reverse, they were not known previously. There is the from the type 1, very say that this reverse was designed together with the obverse initially, and the fact that we have only 3 examples doesn't mean this was rare. This was used somehow somewhere else, and they disappeared, or they were not included in the hoard in big quantities. So what we find or think rare doesn't necessarily mean that it was rare in ancient times. As you see, this obverse produced a lot of archer reverses, yet we have this a military personage, yet the military personage is in the Persian military attire. This person has a quiver and a bow on the right shoulder, and the quiver is floral objects, and the personage is holding a spear, and in the right hand, just like the one on the obverse, he's holding a flower, and most likely it's a lotus flower. Lotus flower represents life again. That's why it's important. So even though the headdresses are different, in my view, they are the same person. They are not different from one another. One is in the palace dress or ceremonial dress. That's the difference. In my view. Yet we have a legend here that appeared on other coins, previously known coins, and it was translated as Nergal, or to Nergal, or towards Nergal. This is something that was offered early 1970s, and nobody had any issues with that. Yet, when you look at the Nergal issue, you find conflicting information. Nergal is an Assyrian, Babylonian, Akkadian sun god, or a god of war, god with heroic powers. Well, Cilicia is not too far from Assyria, quite far from Babylonia and the Akkad land. However, why should the Cilicians choose something like that? If you want to discard the Cilicians as the type choosers, why should the Persians bother with Nergal? Because they had already established their own chief deity, which is Ahura Mazda. So this was quite a perplexing topic that actually stopped me from working on this project, and I went into research and tried to find what this legend might be. Of course, it was offered by such distinguished scholars. You don't want to you don't want to suspect, you don't want to challenge it. Yet I had to, and it just doesn't make sense. 2 by 2 doesn't make 4, so you have to do something about it. So then we have this coin appeared together with the other one, and we see the same legend here. And underneath the legend, Tarsus. So it's obvious it's the same legend. And I contacted a friend in Adana, Turkey, at the museum, and I asked him if he knew someone from Mardin, where we have several Syriac churches, Orthodox churches. And I know that they speak Aramaic, and they still read and write in Aramaic. And I thought they might offer us some kind of a translation for this legend. And I have to express my profound gratitude to Mr. Gabriel Akuz, the pastor of the Mardin Mor Benham, better known in Turkish Kırklar Church. And as soon as he saw it, he said, "It's Cilicia. It doesn't mean Nergal. It doesn't say Nergal." Well, I didn't tell him that it was previously translated to Nergal. He said immediately it's Cilicia, and it makes perfect sense. We have nothing to do with Nergal. Nergal has nothing to do with this region, and Nergal has nothing to do with the Persian Empire either. Even though Persian Empire took a lot from the Assyrian culture, Nergal was not one of the deities that they adopted. So what we see here is Tarsus of Cilicia, Tarsus of Kilikia, and this was one of the major discoveries that we were able to make as a result of studying the legend, and it's all thanks to Mr. Akuz. He was kind enough to provide this translation. Now, of course, the second issue is who is this guy and who is this deity? It's obvious that it is a deity when you look at the example on the top. We have a crouching lion and this a military figure holding a ball in his left hand and a spear in his right hand. Is standing on this crouching lion, and in the back is a tree. The same image appears on the reverses of another type, yet without the crouching lion. The legends are the same. It's Tarsus of Cilicia. And the way it is rendered is that the engraver wanted to show us that this is a deity or the great king as a deity holding a ball and a spear, because ball and spear are the two attributes of the great king of the Persian Empire. It's always like that. We have other renditions of the great king running, standing with a ball in one hand and a spear in the other hand. And of course, we have to look at the iconography of the other art. And in the Hittite art, we see similar god and great king depictions. And in, of course, Assyria, we see similar ones. But we don't need to go to Assyria for a coin that was minted in Cilicia. There is a rich Hittite culture, Neo-Hittite and earlier Hittite culture. The Kizzuwatna kingdom was quite prominent during the great Hittite empire period, and they made agreements as equals. Finally, they were subdued by the Hittite empire, but we see similar depictions, gods on either lions or bulls, abundantly available in Cilicia. So they don't need to go to Assyria to take any of these images. So we here we still have this question: who was this guy? The most important element that lead me to think that it was the great king as a deity is the Persian military dress. It's not a local divinity. Even if it is a local divinity or in the guise of a local divinity, he is dressed up like a Persian soldier. So there is a message here that we have to understand correctly. But this computer doesn't show the image that I have here. But as I said, this coin, this coin was known. It was purchased for the British Museum in 1970 or 71, together with another coin. And they were published by Jenkins, a very valuable numismatist historian with wonderful books. And he also mentions that Dr. Mildenberg, most likely Leo Mildenberg, also published this coin. And their information comes from another distinguished historian, numismatist, scholar, Henry Sirach, the French scholar. Unfortunately, Mr. Sirach passed away a short while after these coins appeared, but he had the chance to examine the coins, and he refused to publish them, even though Mr. Jenkins asked him to do that, because Mr. Jenkins thought that he was the top authority to publish such a coin. He said the questions it raises are too complicated, so he refused to publish these coins. And I was unable to access Dr. Mildenberg's paper. However, I understand that he also accepts that this image is that of the god Nergal. The translation offered by Mr. Sirach was never questioned. Nergal Tarsus. And this is what they thought it read. And afterwards, of course, having scholars with such reputation offering a translation, no one questioned this. Thanks to Mr. Akuz, we have a different reading, which makes actually technically more sense. And then the other coin that I wanted to show you that didn't appear in the previous on the previous slide was this coin. We have two types with a male hero, most likely Bellerophon, Um, this type, one on the top, has the same personage on each side with a different rendition of the wings of two that I could record, and then I could find three examples of this type on the lower left-hand side. This one well preserved, but the other one is well circulated, very distinguishable, but still circulated. I'm going to post my research on my academia page soon. You can see the whole paper and also the photographs of all the coins. All the examples come from the same Obverse and reverse dies, and the reverse are not well preserved, or they were struck from tampered with dies. Why do I say tampered with? Previously, this example was offered, and on this one we can see all the details that should be on this example. So the legend is the same as what we saw on the previous example. So it says Tarsus of Cilicia, or Cilicia Tarsus, or Tarsus Cilicia, whatever you would like to call it. And for the first time, we have a figure in a way that is not Persian. The headdress is different. If there is a headdress, we're not 100% sure, but there should be some kind of a headdress. Long hair maybe, or with a long back piece. It's a bearded figure wearing a long dress, a chiton maybe, and maybe a cloak on the over the shoulders, and one hand is raised, palm open to the air, and he is holding a labiris, a double axe. On the in front of the figure is a corn of ear, a large one, and behind is some kind of a tree. I'm not 100% sure, with three branches. It's really difficult to discern, and I don't want to make any illogical suggestions here. So I'm just going to leave it as is. But whatever it is, probably it was not agreed by everyone, and they distorted the figure. If that all three examples will come from a worn die. Something happened. I believe they decided to erase this image or figure on the right-hand side. But they continued minting these coins. What this figure tells us is that it's a local deity. It's different from that we saw earlier on the Persian military attire, and it resurfaces during the Hellenistic period as Sandan. And interestingly, Sandan is depicted on a mythological lion, horned and winged lion, And interestingly, this figure also holds a labyrinth, or a double axe in a sense. And the Roman rendition is very, very clear. And it is very, very similar to that of the stator depiction. And as you see, he's wearing a long cloak. Open, front side is open, and the hand is raised. Right hand is raised in the air, maybe in a greeting gesture, different from what we see here. And his attributes are multiplied here, and maybe we don't really see what he has. Somebody said that this figure had wings. I don't believe that these are wings. They don't look like a part of the attire of the figure. So we have this enigmatic figure. Yet what we have here is a local deity with the same legends. Now, overall, all these different types, somehow interconnected different types, tell me that the emission of the series of coins that we study here was enormous. It was not just a simple military payment operation. It was not a simple tribute payment operation. It was an operation for a very strong economy that would require coins to facilitate commerce at that time. Going back to the Persian military parade, we have these two types. I call them two types. So I would say this is also one of the earlier issues. And then the second series come without a legend. Now, there is one intriguing item here. Again, the rendition of the name Tarsus is not completely, probably not correct. And the last letter is redone in the field here. It's not a signature. I don't think it's a signature. I don't think it means anything else. As they say, it was LR, but it's just the R of Tarsus, most likely. And the die engraver while later. That's my view. And then the type was so well known, they didn't want to put any legend on the second series. Now, the meaning of the scene is, of course, not known to us. In my view, it is the show-off of the Persian ruler to the Tarsus people and the people who would handle these coins as a result of military activities, commercial activities, or governmental activities. The whole series tell me that the Persian ruler wanted to propagandize its power, and what better images that they could use to show off than the reliefs that adorn their capital palace in Susa and in Persepolis. So it's a very well organized propaganda activity, in my view. finally, we have this previously not known example with an extraordinary image on the reverse. The obverse is, again, the horseman that we have discussed. We know that this coin is unepigraphic, so there is no legend on this coin. So we cannot say 100% this is Tarsus, but yes, we can say this is Tarsus because of the image. Is extremely clear. We have a warrior in Persian military attire with headdress and everything, and with his bow and quiver on his over his left shoulder. His opponent is sitting on the ground on a round object here, maybe a quiver or maybe something else. I cannot really tell, but his hands are on two sides of his body, so he's not defending himself. He's helpless. He simply submitted to his opponent. The opponent is trying to stabilize him by the crescent of his helmet, and he is stabbing him with his sword. Not really well seen here, but the stem here is visible. So it's obvious that this is a military propaganda piece of the Persian Empire, and this completes the whole propaganda series. And in my mind, there's no question that this was a well-designed and perfectly organized production of propaganda pieces by the Persian overlords in Cilicia at Tarsus. Now, the problems that we face mostly come from the fact that our ancient resources are all Greek. Herodotus, in his histories, we read a lot about the Persian Empire. Xenophon of Athens, his famous book Anabasis, tells us about the March of the 10,000. And then Thucydides, from his history of the Peloponnesian War, we read about their dealings with the Persian Empire. So none of these guys spoke Persian, and none of these guys could tell us the Persian side of these stories. And all of these guys were one-sided, and they were very, very, I don't want to call them nationalistic, but they were very proud of their own culture. And I don't know if anyone has read the history of the Peloponnesian War. When you read that book, after a while you get bored. You get lost in the wars happening here and there, and who is doing what and what is doing who. You get really perplexed. But the main, the gist of the story is that these people warred every day, you think. And of course, I understand those scholars who try to associate coin images to certain wars and kings and queens and emperors. And it's all because of what they read and readily accept as concrete facts. And these people were not unbiased, and what they explained, what they wrote, was and is still not reliable because they write from. Now, if you go to Thucydides's History of the Peloponnesian War, you will read his remarks here. This is really very, very interesting. He wrote here. He says, having now given the results of my inquiries into early times, I grant that there will be a difficulty in believing every particular detail. So he admits that you're not going to find everything he says believable. And he continues on to say, the way most men deal with traditions, so again, traditions, even traditions of their own country, is to receive them all alike as they are delivered without applying any critical test whatever. And for some reason, many researchers simply disregard Thucydides' his own words about his credibility. And then he continues on to say, this is really interesting. With reference to the speeches in this history, if you read it, you will see lengthy speeches were written to the minute. But let's see what he says about them. With reference to the speeches in this history, some were delivered before the war began, others while it was going on. Some I heard myself, others I got from various quarters. It was in all cases difficult to carry them word for word in one's memory. So my habit has been to make the speakers say what was, in my opinion, demanded of them by the various occasions. Of course, adhering as closely as possible to the general sense of what they really said. So I'm not asking anyone to discredit any of these ancient historians' work, but I'm saying that we have to approach them with certain reservation and not take what they wrote readily as facts just because we believe in something and we found something supporting to what we believe. So we have to be very careful when we make establishment about historical facts. So going back to the identity of this horseman, we have Colin Karai, we have Olivier Casabon, we have Leo Mildenberg, we have Jenkins, and we have Weiser, and finally we have Cynthia Harrison, and many, many others. And this is where I will make some complaints about how the scholarly work is shared with the general public. Some people still keep their work behind the walls. You either have to pay hefty prices to access a 5-10 page paper, or you have to pay hefty prices for a book that was written by a scholar who is paid by his university or her university, and literally they make it very difficult to access their work, if not impossible. Anyways, I was not able to find all of them, but I found many of them, and I also read very carefully what some of them wrote about the work of the other one. Of course, without really taking anything for granted of what they wrote about each other. In general, what I'm trying to say is that so many people wrote about these coins without really knowing the general iconography of ancient coinage. Even some numismatists made some very grave mistakes, and they have to be challenged one by one, maybe. But I don't have that kind of time. I'm just going to focus on what I found, and I will put it in front of everyone for free, so that everyone can use my information and criticize my theories and findings if necessary. I'll tell you one of the most outrageous and even preposterous interpretation of this writer. So everyone agrees that the writer looks like Persian. The guy is in Persian military attire. So in one part of Anabasis, Xenophon talks about Kurosh or Kairos the Young coming to Tarsus, and after some unpleasant incidents between the Tarsians and the so-called Cilician king Cyanesis, they reconcile and they meet finally, and Cyanesis gives Kairos a big amount of money, and in return, Kairos gives Cyanesis some gifts, among which is a set of Persian dress. And this genius scholar claims that this writer is Cyanesis wearing the dresses that Kairos gifted to him. I don't think it is even funny. And I find it extremely outrageous that a scholar can use such imagination to identify a figure on a coin. And the work of Xenophon is full of contradictions. There are many historical problems, and I do not discard it completely. Of course, it's a very important resource, but we have to be very careful when we use the ancient resources, and should not take everything granted readily, and pay attention to the other realities. Now, what I'm coming at is that this Cyanesis theory is completely false. There apparently was a Cilician overlord, not even a king, called Cyanesis. And the fact that we call this person Cyanesis is also quite unreliable, because we just heard that from Herodotus for the first time. So there is the Cyanesis who got involved in a peace deal between the Medes and the Lydians in 560s. And then we have another occasion in 480s. And then finally, after several other appearances here and there, this person, or the name, I should say, appears in Anabasis. And everyone simply takes it as concrete fact that there was this guy called Cyanesis. There is no local image of this ruler. There is no local inscription, and we don't even know how his name in Cilician language, that would have been Luvian at that time, was written. And other than what these two guys, Herodotus and Xenophon, we have no information about this guy, and no legend referring to this king appears on any coins. In fact, the Aramaic legends that we see on Tarsus coins don't even appear in other Cilician strikes. So Malos, Issos, Soloi, and all the other Cilician cities never ever used Aramaic, just Tarsus. So I limited to the images that we see here. I completely disregard the CNS's option. It was absolutely not CNS's, but it was, in my view, the Persian king. I would like to mention about some earlier studies about this. So Ernst Babylon compiled this catalog in 1910. So it's very remarkable how many coins he brought together, and he did his best. And some of the information he provided is still valid, and but of course, with new material, our information improved, and we can make better assessment on some of the others. Another major publication is Archaic and Classical Greek Coins by Colin Karai. He did a great job putting together the information that he has here, but he is the most battered scholar in the field because he was so sure, he was so confident in his establishments, and every scholar who has studied these coins since Mr. Karai's publication goes to Mr. Karai and criticize his establishment, and most of the time they are. Well, one other item that I would like to talk about here regarding the military propaganda issue. As I said, these two types are military propaganda pieces. These are two coins that were not found in the hoard, most likely contemporary. In my view, these can be a little bit earlier than the series that we see here. Others feel that they are later. But in my view, what's happening here is the in campaign, riding a galloping horse, and on the reverse is a Greek soldier, a hoplite, dressed, in this case here undressed, in defensive. I see the two images as one, and this is what suggested in her dissertation in early 1980s. Now, what is interesting is that everybody reads everybody. This is also funny. Everybody reads everybody, and everybody disregards what the others wrote. This is really funny. I had to give credit to Ms. Harrison. I feel the same. This is a complete picture. The Persian king is running over the Greek army. Of course, we're not talking about a hoplite here. This image represents the Greek army, the Persians at that time, and on the other side, on the Greek side, you see similar images, albeit the persons changed places, on this calyx from the 5th century, you see the Persian soldier in the defensive, and the Greek soldier is dominating. Here you have the same thing. And one of the most interesting I found 2 weeks ago, this is really funny. It is called the Eurymedon Attic was, and on one side you have a Greek personage holding his paws and advancing with a hand open, and on the other side you have a Persian figure bending and raising hands in submission completely. And there is apparently an inscription on it. I didn't see it, but the museum description gives that. I am Eurymedon, I stand bent forward. So literally, it says that Greeks won a major victory over the Persians on this one. So the propaganda war was not only on coins and on other items as well. Okay, let's go to the next one. If only the computer cooperates. Oh, there it is. Now, finally, against the military payment or tribute payment theory, I would like to draw everyone's attention to the fact that these coins were not struck in one denomination, but actually in very well designed 6 denominations. I guess this second most common denomination is 1/3 of the stater, 10.50 grams, 10.70 grams, sometimes 10.11 grams. See, the archer is on the reverse. And remember the archer with the head of an eagle? Here we see it on this smaller denomination. This is another denomination. Yes, the obverses are different. We have Pegasus, and we saw the Pegasus before. So it has a historical significance. I didn't talk about it, not to prolong this talk, but it has a Cilician connection. And here we have the god or great king marching that we saw on another. And the legend, Kilikia, is in back of it. And here, the 2 two soldiers depictions together with a griffin on the Obverse. These are all relevant topics, coin topics, to the staters that we just studied. And smaller denominations, they have 3. Here, and at least another one. I couldn't find an example, but there must be another one. Traditionally, we know that they came in 6 denominations. So 1.70 grams, 0.64 grams, and 0.28 grams, and there is even a smaller denomination. And on these ones, we see the symbol of the mint. Together with griffins and horses, Pegasus's head here. So, and just a note here, this is 2.61. It's just the mint workers decided to produce this coin to perplex me intentionally after 2,500 years. Why do you have this 2.61 grams? I have some theories, but I don't want to go into that. It's an unusual denomination, a mistake, or as I said, the mint workers wanted to give Bekircan a hard time. That's why they made that coin like that. Okay, Going back to my the main argument, sea trade, maritime trade, was well established long before these coins were issued. Those who attended my previous talks might remember this slide from the pre-coinage economies and introduction to coinage. These Uluburun and Gelidonia Burn racks tell us a lot about sea roads and maritime commercial activities. And I would think that 1,000 years after the time of these wrecks, the maritime trade was much stronger, and there were much more activity in the sea trade, and these coins were created to facilitate commerce as well as military activities and governmental expenses. And one last item before I finish with the next one. You have test cuts on coins from the 9 different mints that are represented in this hoard. So the person who received these coins occasionally wanted to check if these coins were silver inside and out, and he put some test cuts on them to check them. And the final item, again, not directly related to the argument here, but an important argument that in Cilicia there was one common mint. Not all cities had a mint, but coins were minted for different cities in one common mint. Example came from the most likely. Only Obverse is the image that we see on most coins. And on the Obverse with the legend, obviously this is a coin from Solon. So the mint workers made a simple mistake, most likely. I don't think they wanted to perplex Bekircan again after 2,500 years. They made a mistake. And then this coin was offered recently for sale. And it's on the reverse. And many people wrote about this coin, lengthy papers explaining how the city of Tarsus contributed to Barnabas's expeditions, this and that. No, I'm sorry, but that's not what happened. This example happened here. The coins of Nagiros were minted at the central mint. Most likely it was in Tarsus, and they made a mistake. They used one of the Tarsus dies with one of the Nagiros coins. I thought this was interesting to share with you. Lastly, this is what we have. Around 2,200 coins. Multiply by 10.5 grams, it's about 23 kilograms. And overall, I estimate that this was a 1 talent assemblage or accumulation brought together and buried somewhere, we don't know where, to be retrieved one day, which was not possible. It was a disaster for the owner, most likely, but it's a huge gift to us, and I just wanted to share this gift with you. Thank you. Okay, I can take any questions that you might have. Here, let me just go. How old are these coins? 2,500 years old. Oh yeah, well, the dating is still under review. I would like to take it to the 450s, but I have to study the rest of the coins from other mints to make that final decision, but it will be between 450 and 400, not after 400. Why do I say not after 400? In this hoard, there's no coin from Nagidos. Nagidos would have been somewhere here between Calendars and Sida. And we know that Nagidos started minting during the time of Parnavazes, or earlier before Parnavazes, but after 400. And that's why I say that this was before 400. When it kindly says excellent presentation, and as a collector of Tarsus coins, much appreciated. And what is the purity of these silver coins? Another question. Most likely very pure, close to 1,000, if not 900 something, but not less than 900. And any other questions? Thank you. I guess that's it. Any questions from the floor?